times than I could count, since it had been given to me around the same time the dogs had become my responsibility. For a couple months, a generic voicemail had picked up. I'd left messages. But around March, the voicemail greeting disappeared. Now, it only rang and rang. It was allegedly my father's number, but I doubted I'd ever know for sure if it was or had ever been. I closed the drawer, but then opened it again. I hadn't tried the number for a week or so. I'd told myself I was going to stop calling it. My father had left my mother and me when I was 7. He hadn't responded to any of the messages I'd left at the other end of this number. At some point, I needed to accept that he was never going to come back into my life, and didn't want to. Hadn't wanted to for a long time. I sighed and then closed the drawer yet again. Pathetic, I said to myself, then looked down at Gus. I'm pathetic. Gus lifted an uncertain eyebrow, as if not sure whether or not to agree. My circumstances weren't typical. My life hadn't been, so maybe this experience was simply my normal, not pathetic. No, I decided quickly. This continued sense of longing for a father who didn't want to be in my life was most definitely pathetic. Maybe a little justified, sure, but I needed to get over it. I was trying, and it was only one of the reasons my life wasn't normal. I'd come to Benedict, Alaska, directly from a hospital in Missouri. A week or so before that, I'd thrown myself out of a van after being kept inside it for 3 days by Travis Walker, a name I hadn't immediately remembered, and a man who hadn't been caught yet. I'd felt compelled to run away and hide, thinking that no one could find me here. I'd been wrong about that, but I still felt mostly safe, and as far as I knew, Walker hadn't made his way here. One of the secrets I lived was my pen name, Elizabeth Fairchild, and my actual career as a thriller writer. Here, most people knew me by my real name, Beth Rivers. I grabbed some files from the corner of my desk and straightened them. They were filled with details on local events and things I used for my cover job, editor of the local paper, The Petition. This shed, the home office for the paper, and a place I could hide to write my books, had served me well. No matter how I worked to distract myself by straightening up, the phone number kept flashing through my mind. No, I wasn't going to call the number today. I had wanted something else to think about, something to get my mind off the book. But now, I would rather have been obsessing about it instead. I'd channeled some anger into this new manuscript, using the story as a way to maybe work out some of my own. Maybe I wasn't doing it right. Maybe I wasn't being honest enough about it. It would come to me. I had a therapist now to help me through my traumas and resentments. Leah had encouraged me to journal, but when I told her I thought I could finally use what I'd been through in one of my books, she said it might be a good idea. Might. She'd had some reservations and wanted to make sure that whatever I wrote didn't send me into a downward spiral. It hadn't, but I sensed a roadblock of some sort, both in my real life and in the book. It was as if I could see what was ahead, but it was awfully blurry. No matter what, though, Leah was glad I was ready to write it down, or as she said, write it out of me. I stood and walked to the other desk in the shed. I gathered a remaining pile of flyers I'd been putting up around town the last few days and neatly restacked them. Though I'd published the date of tomorrow's big event in the Petition's weekly editions for months now, the flyers had been extra reminders. Everyone was required to attend the event. If they didn't, they'd be searched for and inquired about until eyes were put on them. Tomorrow was Benedict's annual Death Walk, wherein Gril, the local police chief, and Donner, the other member of the local law enforcement team, as well as a park ranger, took a head count, hoping everyone survived the winter, and then searched the community for those who didn't report in. The Death Walk was not only